at it at its way it was filmed originally at 600 frames per second. You notice that when the slide comes all the way to its rearward position, that it doesn't really stay there very long. In fact, there's almost no weight whatsoever. It comes forward as soon as it goes back, it comes forward. And notice the dip, the nosedive from the muzzle. This I attribute to an 18-pound or an oversprung gun, if you will. So now we'll take a look at it super slow motion. So the gun goes off, comes back, almost no weight whatsoever on the slide, and it comes forward again. Strips the next round out of the magazine and closes. But the 18-pound spring, in my opinion, with my IPSC loads, and these are 170 power factor, is just too much for my taste. I'd like my gun to shoot a little bit flatter, and this gun tends to dip a little bit. A little too much with that spring. So now let's go to the 14-pound spring, and this is sped up again. And here it is in real time. Now this is the spring I normally use. Notice there's a little bit more hesitation at the rear. The slide stays at its rearward position just a little bit longer than the 18 did, and there is still some dipping in the muzzle, but not quite as much than the 18-pound. So that the gun in a way stays a lot more level when you're shooting, so my belief is it gives me faster follow-up shots. Not to mention that slide staying all the way back gives more reliable feeding. And here it is in super slow motion again. Once again, 600 frames per second, slowed down considerably. Notice the hesitation there at the end. The slide stays back a lot longer than the 18-pound spring. And that's key. You want that slide to stay open longer than instantly, if you will. You want to give the magazine enough time to push that next round up. If the slide closes before that next round can get up there, it's basically going to not put a round in the chamber. It'll just pass right over the magazine without stripping a round. Now this is a 7-pound recoil spring with my major IPSC loads or USP PSA loads. Here it is in 600 frames per second again. Notice how long the slide stays open. It's considerably longer than the 14-pound. It may not be as evident here, but it will be when we show the slow motion. But look there's virtually no dip in the muzzle. So after the slide closes, there's almost no dip. This is going to give you, like I said, should give your sight picture faster alignment for that second shot. Here it is in super slow motion. Watch how long the slide stays open. Here we go. Look how long, it's like eternity. And that should give it way plenty time, if you will, to get that next round out. And virtually no dipping in the muzzle. And now, this is the STI Heavy Recoil Master. They make, when I bought this, there was a heavy and a light. So here it is in 600 frames per second. The slide doesn't stay open as long. There is some hesitation, so I don't see a problem there. But me personally, that dual spring system is just too bouncy for me. Granted, this is the heavy Recoil Master, and if I had the light one, maybe it would perform a little bit different. But it functioned just fine for me. However, personal preference, I just don't care for it. And here it is in super slow motion. There's a good amount of time for the slide to stay open there. It was just an odd feeling, that dual spring system. I can't really describe it. And a lot of this is going to be personal preference too. Now this next one here, this is a 7-pound recoil spring with my minor loads. Now, the only point of shooting minor is for like steel challenge matches, where power factor is really not an issue. These are 135 grain, 40 caliber bullets, going about, I'd say about 115, 120 power factor. Notice the slide doesn't stay open very long, but there's virtually no muzzle rise. And notice how far the brass comes out. It barely comes out, it barely clears my hand. The only problem with shooting a light round, a minor load like this with a super light spring, is if you have your magazine loaded to capacity, the tension on your bullets in your magazine on the bottom of your slide may cause your slide to not have enough force to move backwards, basically, and you won't be able to, it won't function properly. Now, for when I shoot minor like this, I do it with only 10 rounds per magazine, because it's usually it's usually steel challenge matches I'm shooting. So with those 10 rounds in there, and I can hold 18 to 19 rounds in my magazine, I'm only half full.